Welcome to Skylight Live, presented by Skylight Theater. Thank you for joining us. I'm Gary Grossman, producing artistic director. Hello, all everybody out there. Let's hear it in the chat room. Let's get some noise going. With the election days away and with a lot of help from some friends, we wanted to take today and talk about the Constitution. We the people, a conversation about democracy and about our country at the crossroads was going to begin shortly. Immediately following, we're going to do a live Q&A, and I hope you'll stick around and put your questions in the chat because we want you to be a part of it. I'm going to see you again in a few minutes. Right now, this is We the People.
We. Hello and welcome. I'm a proud citizen of the United States and a proud daughter of Philadelphia, the home of the Constitution. The Constitution of the United States established America's national government and fundamental laws and guaranteed certain basic rights for its citizens. It was signed on September 17, 1787, by delegates to the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. The first 3 articles of the Constitution introduce and delineate the 3 branches of the federal government, the legislative, executive, and judicial branches in that order. The articles, of course, weren't about the accumulation of power, about one branch enticing or threatening the other 2 branches into compliance or support or mutual benefit. They were about the separation of powers, the foundational democratic idea that each of the 3 branches would act as a system of checks and balances on the other 2, separate entities that were created in order to stop the accumulation of power in a single place or a single individual. The framers understood that a rock-solid system of checks and balances was their only protection against the kind of tyrannical government they were rebelling against. It was built for the people. We, the people.
At the time of its creation, the purpose of the Constitution was to unite America's citizens as a whole body, vesting the power of the Union in the people. We, the people. Through time, it has been amended to progress and move forward as we, the people, move forward and change and evolve and learn and grow. It is a living document, and we are a living people, constantly striving to be better and do better.
We, the people of the United States.
I was staying at a counter at a bookstore, Skylight Books, in fact, and I was making a purchase, and there was a stack of these. And something inspired me last year to say, wait a minute, I need a copy. This is really important. This has got to be on my library shelf. And in fact, with this year and everything that's gone on, I've referred to this so many times. Every time I listen to NPR or every time I listen to the news and have a conversation with somebody about what's going on in our world, politically, I keep going back to this. And I keep thinking, this is the original text, but things have changed.
We the people. Those 3 words, they just might be the 3 most important words in the birthing of the United States of America. 3 words that galvanize the idea behind the formation of our democracy. radical for its time. The concept of a government that was of, by, and for the people, the rights, the freedoms, the separation of powers, the vote, that the people would choose their leaders was literally revolutionary.
We, the people. When I hear those words being said patriotically, if I'm honest, I cringe a little. Because when they originally wrote we, that didn't include me. But then I think of all the people who fought, sweat, and even died to reclaim my place in we. I vote to honor their legacy. I vote because I do not accept the presupposition that I would quietly allow my existence to be ignored and my voice to be silenced. I vote because we are the past, we are the present, and we are the future of this country. So I vote.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union.
What?
So here's what it says.
What?
I said I was going to look up what the Constitution had to say about how many Supreme Court justices there could be.
Yes.
When they were having the debates the other night.
Yes.
So I looked it up.
And
Well, here it is, and it's surprising. There is only in the Constitution a single Chief Justice mentioned. There's no associate justices at all.
What?
It was an act of Congress in 1789 that provided an additional 5 associates.
Where'd they get that number from?
Well, then another act of Congress in 1807 made the associate 6.
Yeah.
And another act of Congress in 1837 made it 7.
Whoa.
And another act in 1863 brought it up to 8.
Unbelievable.
But here's the kicker. Then Congress started going the other way and reducing the number of associates.
Because?
Because only 3 years later, in 1866, a new law directed that no appointments of associates should be made until the number of them should be only 6.
Because why?
Because Congress didn't want President Andrew Johnson to make any appointments.
Because why?
Because Johnson was vice president.
Lincoln, when Lincoln was shot.
Lincoln was assassinated,
Yes.
they didn't like him.
Oh, please, come on.
And then after Grant was elected president in 1869, Congress restored the number of associates to 8.
Oh,
And there was only 6 at the time.
holy mother.
So only since 1869 has there been the tradition of 8 associate justices on the Supreme Court.
Wow.
So there's never been any tradition. There's only been
Politics.
bingo.
Boom, bada, boom, bada, boom, boom. Jesus.
You know, every 4th of July, someone always asks me, why would a person with an accent as thick as mine be celebrating what was probably the most ignominious and costly defeat ever handed out to the land of my fathers? And I answer, read the Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal in the eyes of their Maker, and that they each have the divine right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that true political authority, ultimate power, flowed upwards from the people to whoever they chose to represent them as their leaders, and that they had the right, nay, duty, to resist by arms, if necessary, anyone who tried to impose something different. The language of the Declaration was inspirational, pointed towards an ever-evolving and hopeful future for the country, for America, for the city on the hill. The idea that human civilization is always a work in progress, is always moving forward. And to see it otherwise is to betray the very spirit that gave our nation birth.
Well, here we are. Just days away from the most important election of my lifetime. And I've been thinking about peaceable assembly and how challenging it is to do that when passions run so high. I remember in 1970 being a junior at Ohio Wesleyan University. And in May of that year, the protesters at Kent State were fired upon by the National Guard, killing 4 of them and wounding 9. I'm not saying that it was a peaceable demonstration, and I'm sure that the tempers were running pretty high. But bringing the National Guard into that situation simply made it worse, and so often that is the case. I am so hopeful that we can all remain calm and allow each other to express ourselves as we have been given the right to do by our founding fathers on this election day, that everyone should have the confidence that they can safely go and vote for the candidate of their choice without being hassled in any way, shape, or form.
My first experience with voting was during the Carter re-election campaign. I volunteered to register voters in Black neighborhoods. And this was at the end of the 70s, early 80s. And after all that we went through in the 1960s, Black folks and their allies shedding blood to vote, I thought this would be easy. But it was the most grueling and eye-opening experience. I was shocked, baffled, and dismayed. Going from door to door, Black folks refusing to register to vote. I was met with hostility and threats. So one day, standing in front of a supermarket, feeling dejected, attempting to register voters, the 6-foot-tall, smiling, exuberant young Black man declared loudly, "I'll register to vote." He was my Pied Piper. After that, many Black folks just followed him, registering to vote. I vote because I remember the days when Black folks were murdered for registering to vote. I vote for the 3 young men, Cheney, Schwerner, and Goodman. Every time I cast a ballot, I think of them and many others who died. So this Black woman can stand in a booth and voice my opinion about the country I reside. I vote.
Establish justice. Ensure domestic tranquility.
Article 1, Section 2. If I'd been alive when the original document was written, I'd be 3/5 of a person. Not because of a mentally incapacitating head injury, as you can see, I am clear of thought, or because a shark bit off both of my legs. Just simply because of the color of my skin. Article 1, Section 2 detailed the apportioning of representatives in Congress according to the population of each state. All free persons, in other words, white folks, were counted as whole persons, excluding Native Americans, who weren't counted at all, and people who weren't free were counted as 3/5 of a person. The Southern slave owners considered their slaves to be property, not people. But they wanted them counted as a part of their state's population in order to secure more representatives and more power in Congress. Thus, the 3/5 compromise in the Constitution. Fortunately, this living document could be amended, and 75 years later, the 13th Amendment abolished slavery. A year after that, the 14th Amendment guaranteed rights of citizenship, due process, and equal protection under the law to the newly freed slaves. And 4 years after that, the 15th Amendment gave Black men, not women, no women at all, the right to vote. Of course, Jim Crow laws, separate but equal decisions by the Supreme Court kept Black people from enjoying many of these newfound rights until the mid-'60s, when the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, and the 24th Amendment abolishing poll taxes caught up. And voila, racism was over. Well, not really.
Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain seeking a home where he himself is free.
America never was America to me.
Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great, strong land of love, where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above.
It never was America to me.
Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe.
There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free.
Say, who are you who mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars?
I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart.
I am the Negro bearing slavery scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak.
Provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare.
What does we the people mean to you?
That's a very tough question.
Why?
Because the word we.
Because it means French for yes?
No, it's the word we,
Sorry.
Which is meaning all-encompassing we.
Sure.
And I don't believe that we the people, the we in that is all-encompassing.
Do you think it applies to you as a Black man in this country?
No.
So explain that.
No, I don't. Well, it's very simple for me. If you look at it, first of all, let's talk about the Constitution. We the people.
Sure.
And it's like, well, who are the people? Who are the people? This was written for,
I hear what you're saying,
a coterie of white men.
Sure.
No specific gender rights were written into the Constitution. And in fact, the word woman was nowhere to be found. The same 14th Amendment guaranteeing rights of citizenship to the freed slaves set the stage for the suffrage movement that finally, 55 years after the Civil War, won women the right to vote. And 50 years after that, it was due process and the right to privacy in that 14th Amendment that was also the basis for Roe versus Wade.
When their we
yes
is basically we who are sitting in this room writing this, they never, because, if you look at it, they never would have thought that I could actually be sitting here and you asking me that question.
Or that we'd be married.
Or that we'd be married, or that we had children.
Sure.
In order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common... Wait a minute. Ensure domestic tranquility. Ensure domestic tranquility. I have never felt less domestically tranquil in my entire life. Tranquility. What part of inciting hatred and caging immigrant children and misogyny and racism and allowing a hatred of Blacks and Hispanics and Latinos and immigrants and gays, lesbian, I don't understand how. Okay.
Today, we are dealing with voter suppression, gerrymandering, redlining, the prison system. All of these entities and policies prevent us from being counted.
Well, I kind of see it a bit of a different way. Do you mind if I jump in?
Absolutely.
And you know me, I'm the rose-colored glasses wearing of the two of us.
Absolutely that person.
And I also am not a black person, so I speak from a very white perspective. That is a known quantity between us.
Yes.
But all of those changed amendments over the years, it becomes more inclusive. The we does become more inclusive. All of a sudden, oh, look, women have a right to vote. Oh, look, down the line, gay people can get married. So the we's become more inclusive. We've gone in a more positive direction with the we than where we started out. You don't agree?
I don't agree. I just can't agree to that, because maybe we were headed in that direction. We were going around the band and trying to see what happens. And then boom, where are we right now?
I am the young man, full of strength and hope, tangled in that ancient, endless chain of profit, power, gain, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, of work the men, of take the pay, of owning everything for one's own greed.
Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies.
We, the people, must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and the endless plain. All the stretch of these great green states, and make America again.
And make America again.
And secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity.
So why is this election so important? I think that so much is going to be decided. I think, as a queer person, there's really a lot of worry about marriage equality. Like, that's a real thing. And of course, and I live in California, I live in Los Angeles. So I think compared to others, I'm relatively kind of more protected than others, but I think still that's a really big fear. And just kind of the possibilities of rights that could be taken away that are actually pretty recent. Marriage equality is very recent. A lot of strides, I think, that have been made have been really recent. So I think that the election, it really, for me, I feel like it's really going to decide not just the present and how people are going to be able to, live their lives and be themselves and not live in fear in the present, but I think it's also going to determine the future. And because I think there's kind of this idea that it's really hard to dream of something that you can't see. It's really hard to sometimes believe that something can be created if it's not there. And I think that also, at least a fear that I have, is that our ability to imagine the future and to hope and to have hope for the future, I think it might be hard to sustain that hope, even though, of course, I'm going to try, and I think everyone I know is really trying to envision that future.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
And if the inspiring and notorious RBG taught us anything, it's that you can't always get what you want, but you never give up the fight.
And over time, through great suffering and activism, spilled blood, tweaks were made to the Constitution through amendments to make our rights and freedoms a little more inclusive, to make the vote a little more representative of we the people.
Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
I'm a citizen of the United States and a father and a grandfather.
And it gives me pause to open the paper every day these days. I remember collecting for UNICEF on Halloween nights as a kid in the 1950s. I remember the idealism instilled in us as children in school. And I want my grandkids to have a chance to be idealistic and feel positive about their lives going forward.
So in this moment, in the shadow world of time and reality, let us remember that each naturalized American citizen must include in their oath this statement: I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Sadly, too sadly, and too often, this phrase in the oath is still waiting and still wanting for attention. You see, life is an equal opportunity employer of both heroes and enemies. But we are in an age of accusation, and living in a land of pointing fingers, we miss the point. We are pointing the wrong way if we don't stop, turn, and look at ourselves and bear true faith and allegiance to support and defend the best in ourselves. Human patriotism is a red, white, and blue commitment to be a better person to yourself, and from that better place, be better to others. And we, the people, will all be better for it.
President Obama wrote that laws are just words on a page, words that are sometimes malleable, opaque, as dependent on context and trust as they are in a promise we might make to someone. Words whose meanings are subject to erosion, sometimes collapsing in the blink of an eye.
Now more than ever, our eyes need to see clearer and farther. Our minds need to think harder and our arms reach wider in order to form a more perfect union.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
We, the people of the United States. We, the people of the United States.
We, the people of the United States.
We,
the people.
My vote is downtown. It's being counted. I got my text from that place you told me about, ballot tracks with an X. With an X. Mary, this is your sample ballot. Did you vote?
I already voted, yeah.
You did? Is it being counted?
It is.
Oh, that's fantastic. Daddy's gonna vote for you. I just know it. That's good. Ballottracks with an X.com.
Yep.
Do you know today, as of the 22nd of October, already 47 million people have voted already? It's so fantastic. We're gonna win. Well, Green, go on and vote, for goodness sake. Just go get it.
I'm voting.
And vote. My golly. Sorry for raising my voice. Just vote. Please. Please vote.
Everybody in
in the Q&A, please turn on your mic so you can be heard here. There you go. And I'm waiting on Garrett to tell me, can we hear everybody? You can be heard here. There you go. Great. I guess we're good. And I'm waiting on Garrett to tell me, can we hear everybody? All right.
Garrett?
So welcome. Here, everybody. Welcome, everybody. And thanks for being here. And thanks for watching We the People. There's Cameron. All right, so I'm going to introduce a couple of people here, let everybody know where we are. That's Cameron Watson on the bottom there. I think he's on the bottom of the screen. He's our director. That's Tony Vetamarco next to me. Wendie Kaut next to me, and Jeff Reno underneath me, and that these are the conceivers. You got Charlie Shaughnessy off to the right there. You got Kacie Rogers there. You got Melissa Fitzgerald, who you'll remember from Carol on West Wing, but she is the senior director of the nonprofit Justice for Vets. Did I get that right?
Yes, an Advancing Justice Initiative.
That's correct. Right. And she's with us today, Mary Chieffo, a daughter of Beth Grant, but also stars in Star Trek, right? Is it Star Trek, the new Star Trek, right? And there's Hutch and Michael, Laura Zucker and Alan Miller, who we're going to do a series on soon. It's going to be, they go to Washington, and Wendie Malick. So I think that's it for everybody here. Thanks for being here. I think we're going to start really simply with Tony. You have it with you?
I do, actually.
That's
yeah.
It. This is what kind of kicked off part of this conversation. Wendie and Jeff and Tony and I had been talking about doing something for this week and getting ready for this big next Tuesday, and wanted to do something. And we talked about the Constitution, and we brought Cameron in. And then in the middle of the conversation, Tony talked about what actually he talked about in the piece itself. And that kind of spurred this world off about, let's talk about this. Let's have not just read the articles, but really have a conversation about it. And so that's basically where it goes. I mean, am I right, guys? Did I get that right?
Yeah, I think we actually hadn't even discussed the Constitution yet. We were just talking about the importance of this particular Skylight Live, and I went, oh, you know what, guys? And there it is. And then we all went, oh, wow, we should be talking about that. And that's sort of what got the ball rolling. Yeah.
And I forgot also to mention Joe Spano's here. Scott, sorry. I'm usually upstairs in Joe Spano's house. We have this gag going where, we think I'm living upstairs there. Anyway, Cameron, you want to say something?
Sure. I was just so honored to be asked to jump on board with this team, and they're right. The first time we were talking about it, we were on a Zoom and talking about how, we need to talk about the core. We need to get back to the core. And when Tony held up the little pocket edition of the Constitution, it all of a sudden became so real. It's like, oh, that's something you can actually carry in your little pocket. It's not something that's in a vault or under glass, or it is, but it just became so real. And I thought that was a great jumping off point. And to me, it was important. We had just come off of that crazy debate and the world screaming at each other and fighting about everything. And I thought, wouldn't it just be nice to have a breath out where we can just talk about it and not fight about it? And that's where we began. That's where it all began.
And as long as we just talked about the team, let's do this. So, because we've got three people to really thank here for really getting this together. Besides all of these wonderful people, and some of them sending selfies and tapes like that. But Nick Santiago and Christopher Mascelli really put this together. And Christopher didn't sleep last night, putting all the sound and making it all sound great. And then Garrett, who's the voice of God that everybody hears, has been, filming this on our, we're all venturing into the virtual world here with OBS. And so, so I just want to thank them all, because this was kind of like seamless when you look at it, and anything but in these last couple of days. And without a real script, it was even tougher, because we started piecing things together from here to there and trying to make sure that everybody was heard. So I'm just going to go around and just, chat up with everybody and see about anything else they want to talk about within it that they didn't get to talk about in the event, or that they cut from the video itself. Wendie?
Who, me?
Yes, Wendie Malick.
No, I think it has to start with you.
Oh, that's right. I was sorry. Wendie Couch. All right. And I'll go down to Wendie Malick.
Well, she's Wendie number one for me.
I know.
She is. I think that this what we tried to do was, as Cameron said, have a conversation. We're all so tired of the yelling and the screaming and the division and the hatred. And it was really just embracing the diversity of who we are as Americans. And there's a diversity of opinion in this piece, and everybody's entitled to speak it and to be heard. And I think that I feel so good about that we're celebrating that, and hopefully we'll get back to that.
Yeah. And Kacie, anything? You unmute you, yes.
Not really, not that wasn't said already. I mean, I think that I'm very thankful for this space. I think that at this point, anything that we can do to just really, really encourage people to get out there and make their voices heard is of the utmost importance. So I was just happy to have another venue to do that, and to also recognize the feelings of people who feel like they shouldn't vote because their vote won't matter. Those feelings didn't come from nowhere. Those feelings come from years of being disenfranchised and having the right to vote either stripped away literally, or being subjected to so much harsh voter suppression that it feels like pointless to even try. So acknowledging the validity of those feelings and where they come from, and then saying, hey, I know, but there have been so many things put in place to help you. Let me help you. If you need a plan, I will come and help, do those things. Because I think to tell people not voting, you not wanting to vote is ridiculous and stupid. Even if you do feel that way, it's not legitimizing those feelings that come from a very real place. So also hearing that be expressed here today was really great, because we need to let people know that we hear them and we see them, and we can all come together as a people to do something great together.
Now we've got one chat that said, seeing this through multicultural lens made it very, very powerful. And I think that's so true about everything right now going on. And I think we need more of this. We need more of these conversations going on. And we shouldn't stop. And I don't think anybody's going to stop after, I think it's going to be continuous. Charlie, grabbing you before we got 1 minute more of Charlie Shaughnessy, because he goes for a podcast at his own there. But Charlie, unmute yourself and say hi and bye.
Hi and bye. No, two quick things. I want to follow what you said, Gary, which I think is so important. Is that I was struck by how we sort of come to this place when there's a crisis, and how nice it would be if, when there isn't a crisis, we keep this close to our hearts, this conversation, just day to day in schools, in colleges, on TV, amongst ourselves, it's no good reaching for the Constitution only when we are up against the wall. If we knew this Constitution and held it closer, we wouldn't get to this place. The level of misinformation and uneducation that got us here is because this was not held close during the times of peace. That's the first thing. The second thing I want to say is I was so impressed by everyone's contributions, and I was so impressed by how you guys put it together today. I this was the first time I saw it, and boy, you guys did an amazing job, Cameron, Gary, Jeff, and Wendie. It was a really powerful piece. I was, to be quite honest, amazed. I was pleasantly amazed. I mean, because you had no time, and this is an important document. This really is, and congratulations to you all.
Thank you.
I love you. I got to run.
All right, go run. Hey, Jeff.
Wendie.
I just
Jeff?
wanted to add that.
Sorry.
I just wanted to add that I love Bernie's rallying cry, despair is not an option. And I think being proactive in times like this, but as Charlie just said, we always have to be proactive. And I think what has come up that maybe is the silver lining in all of this is how we cannot take this democracy for granted. This is something that takes constant work. It's like a garden, and if you don't water it and cultivate it, you lose it. And I think for the first time, a lot of us, particularly young people, are realizing that many of the freedoms they enjoy are not guaranteed forever unless they are willing to really stand up for them. So I think in that regard, this is a great starting off point.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Jeff, Jeffrey, no?
Boy, it's hard to add to what we just saw. You guys were all so wonderful in it. It was really terrific. I'll quickly say that when we were first talking about this and Tony held his book up, my part in this, along with Wendie, was going to be to help write a few of these pieces if anyone needed any help with it. And I told these guys that I would have to read the Constitution before I was able to write about it. And I actually did. First time in my life, which was such a plus for me just to be able to do that in this project. I had never read the entire thing and opened my eyes in a whole bunch of ways about what is there and what isn't there, and that was really pretty fascinating. I'll take 1 second and tell you a little bit off what Wendie just said, Wendie Malick. What we have coming up with the Supreme Court is a really interesting situation, because I saw a question in here earlier in the chat about the Constitution being more than 200 years old, and do originalists see it as only what it was back then? And these originalists are people like Barrett and Kavanaugh, et cetera. And it's not quite that simple. They see the amendments, but everything in the Constitution to them goes by the original meaning at the time it was written, including the amendments. So I'll try to get through this real quick, but the right to privacy in the 14th Amendment is the reason Roe v. Wade and marriage equality were made into laws. That those things are not mentioned in the Constitution. And these justices who are originalists believe that if it is not mentioned in the Constitution, it's not something they will rule for. It'll go back to the states. So in my mind, what I realized here is all of these things that have become laws are subject to being overturned now if they're not specifically mentioned in this document, and these aren't. So I don't know if everyone knew that already. I didn't, but that's more specifically how these things are in danger of coming up, and why the vote and what we put into the Senate and the House becomes incredibly important right now. So sorry to go on, but that's what any team that has me as a constitutional scholar has a handicap. But
and the original Constitution was only 5 pages when it was written. When it was first written, it was 5 pages when it was first. It was ratified and then it became bigger. But only 5 pages. We got a chat came in. Great job. As a French living in the U.S., I have experienced 2 countries that stand for liberty. We French have now our 5th constitution. Do you think such big change could happen in the U.S.? Anybody?
I'd like to believe that anything could happen. That's what I would like to believe. I will say that I think it will take us a very long time to get to that place. I think that it's important to acknowledge where we are right now as a starting point. This is definitely a marathon and not a sprint, which is what I always try to impart to people, that I'm really happy that everyone's so excited right now, but I want them to buckle down because we've got a lot of work to do over a long span of time. So I think that if we can all stay unified for long enough with this same kind of energy that has been going on for the past 6 months over the course of years, sure, I think we can get there. And I wanted to hop on what Jeff was saying about voting being so important, to also say that I've been so excited about all the excitement happening around voting right now. And I want to make sure that we all maintain that same energy for the midterm vote. And a part of what I've spent a lot of this quarantine doing is figuring out my place in activism. Much like Wendie said, young people are realizing that we need a place in activism if we want to maintain our rights and our future. And so I started an organization called the Blackboard Collective, which you can find on Instagram and on Facebook. And we have our own website, to where if you have any questions about anything, if you need help formulating a voting plan, we take subjects that we realize we didn't know enough about to inspire change, and we educate ourselves and then create videos to educate everybody else. Right. So follow that, share that. If you know, I mean, I'm sure this group, whoever's watching this, is probably preaching to the choir. You're all very like-minded individuals, but pass it along to those who may need it, because I think that that's kind of what we all need, is to be willing to listen and educate one another and do our parts for a long period of time.
Right. Hutch,
Gary,
Michael.
I just wanted to.
Oh,
Gary,
sorry.
I just wanted to jump in on the question of should we
All right,
replace
great.
the Constitution? Because if you haven't had an opportunity to see Heidi Schreck's play that has now streaming on Amazon, that would be a great follow-up to this conversation. And that's one of the key questions that she poses. And I had the fortune to see it live at the Kennedy Center last year. And my take is that the audience is always split on this question. But from a practical standpoint, and as someone who was involved in government for 25 years, I think it's very unlikely that our Constitution is going to be replaced. I think it's going to continue to evolve. And I think that the tension between what is in the written document and the politics of interpreting it and pushing it forward is what's going to really consume us over the next few decades. Yeah. I was so interested when you asked us to do this, to do the research on the Supreme Court, because like so many other things, I really didn't know what was in the Constitution about the Supreme Court and what wasn't. And I hope what it made me realize, I don't know, did it make you realize this too, is that we rely on everyone telling us what things are about and telling us what the laws can be, but that going back to the original source material is so empowering because there's possibilities that exist that we very often, we only hear skimming across the news. So I hope this is going to encourage me to start re-looking at original documents to see what's possible.
Yeah. Here's a question for you, Laura, from out there. Do you think there should be term limits applied to the Supreme Court?
Ooh.
Yes.
Allan, I'll let Allan take this.
Yes,
he's the oldest person on the Zoom, so he's in the best place to answer it.
No,
Don't let her say that to you, Allan.
What? Yeah, that's fine. She needs some more empowerment. She's got it, as far as I'm concerned.
So what do you think about that?
Term limits?
Yes, absolutely. There's no one human being who can ever be wise the rest of their life. Other things come in and hit you. Family things start taking over. You can't commit to just legal decisions. Absolutely, a certain good, decent amount of time and you're out. I totally believe in that. But I would just also like to say that I grew up in a community. We didn't discuss the Constitution. We discussed whether to have another policeman on that block. We discussed, that's what got us together, and national celebrations. Every national holiday, we had a block party. So it got us all diversely mixed together because there was a lot of different nationalities there, almost all white. But I taught up in Harlem. It didn't jar anything in me to be doing that. But in community, if we don't continually discuss the documents that inform our lives, the forces that are out there, we get huge gaps until something awful is starting to happen all over the country. And then we start dealing with these issues. It's not in the education system. It was never in any of the schools I went to. It was never in the working guys, men. They were mostly the working people in their concerns and issues for their children. It just isn't brought up enough. And I just urge everybody, this was entrancing to me to have some of these words and ideas tossed around. And I just wish every community could somehow or other be shoved, if necessary, into absolute leadership by their county leaders, by their congressmen, their councilmen, to bring up issues like this regularly. That should be part of what we vote for them for.
Yeah. We got somebody from the UK saying only 3 classes of the Magna Carta, or only 3 clauses of the Magna Carta still remain in force today. The rest have been repealed. And then somebody else saying to Laura, definitely when justices are being confirmed because they are young and can affect the court for decades, is definitely time to limit terms.
Gary, I think Melissa wanted to say something. Gary? Gary, I think Melissa wanted to say something.
Hi, Gary. I think, Gary, you're muted, but I can just say it anyway. First of all, thank you for including me in this wonderful. It was a really wonderful opportunity, and I would do anything that Cam asked me to do, but this was really special to be part of it. And being from Philadelphia, the home of the Constitution, it is also the home of the National Constitution Center. And I just want to recommend that post-COVID, when we can all travel again, that everybody make a trip to the National Constitution Center. It is a remarkable experience. It brings the Constitution to life. It has, examples of historically how the Constitution has really impacted our nation. And it is the document that connects all of us together. We are a very diverse and just large in terms of land nation. And we are connected by ideas and ideals. And I think that one thing that I find challenging is that most people are not connecting politics with our everyday lives and policy with how that impacts us. And really, that's how we reflect our values. And, one of my nephews was saying to me, do we have to talk about politics? And I said, I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about values and how we treat people. And I think that if we can really embrace that and do that with a tremendous amount of empathy and curiosity to learn from other people how things impact them, I think that that's a really important place to begin.
Great. And I just want to thank you, Melissa. We don't know each other. We've just, kept on talking on the thing, but thank you for helping out with this and getting the congressmen to be with us here and getting Allison, I think you're wonderful. And listen, I want to support your organization too now. So it's made me start looking into that. So you're doing wonderful work there. I read about it, and
well, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us here.
Well, thank you.
Michael? Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say thank you. And also, I think the artistic community or creative community has really, I think the nation is starting to see how important our artist voices are. And particularly in COVID times, we are turning to our artists and to hearing all these important voices. And I thank all of you for doing that.
Yeah. Hutch, Michael.
Yes.
Your section, we've just kept on looking at that, and it's so bookend within Langston Hughes and what that conversation was. I'd love to spend more time talking just about that conversation. And do you have that conversation in the house between the two of you? Or is that just, over? I mean, I know there's a lot of drinks flowing, but I mean, anything else other than that?
Well, in between drinks, we do have those conversations. Yes, we do.
You know what? I have to share something with you.
Oh, Lord, here we
He
go.
doesn't know I'm going to do this. So
I never do.
I met Michael in '97, and he had never voted before he met me. Never voted. And I was thinking of what you said, Kacie, because I think that could be true. Some of those energies of whether you thought your vote would count or not.
Yeah,
anyway,
very much.
But I did. I dragged him to the polls. I said, no, if you're going to be with me, you got to do this thing.
So we are 23 years later.
23 years later, yep.
And I vote every single time.
You
now.
do. You're very dedicated.
I don't care if they say it's just for whoever's running the library. I'm in line and I am voting every single time now. And I encourage any person of color to go out and do the same. Don't be embarrassed. If you were like me and didn't vote until you were in your early 30s, I'll just say that.
It's a lie.
It's a huge lie, but I'll say it anyway. If you said, you know what, I don't even know how to do it, I'm afraid. Casey Rogers just said there's a website you can go to right now that will talk you through it. Go there now. Don't be afraid. Don't be, do it. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to this country, and you owe it to your ancestors who were lynched on the way to go vote. So go in there and do that.
That's beautiful. We have a question for Wendie. What do you remember as your first time voting versus voting today? I've been a voter since I turned 18. I am now 25, but what, if any advice could you give to young voters?
Take it, Wendie Malick.
I think it's for Wendie Malick. It looks like here. You're muted. One thing is that you get.
There you go. There you go.
I would say, and if you have a trusted aunt like me, call. She can help you out with this stuff. There's just so much to do, but particularly on down ballot things where I understand if younger people aren't like privy to all the stuff going on in a ballot, but if you have a person in your family or a good friend you can trust who's been sort of checking that out, it's really helpful to remember that it's not counts. These down ballot choices we make now are going to inform.
Great. You're freezing a little, but we got most of that. Mary, hi, Mary.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
I'm so thrilled to be here. Me and my parents, we made a very silly video playing on archetypes. But that was part of my motivation to be here for the Q&A because I played very much the opposite of how I feel in when it comes to voting. And as you noted, I'm lucky enough to be a part of the Star Trek community. And we talk about IDIC, infinite diversity and infinite combinations. And to me, that is exactly what we need to embrace now and should have been embracing long ago. But I do feel, when we look back, the incremental change is so essential to the larger change that we get to live in now. And I do agree with all of the sentiment that it's not perfect, nowhere near perfect, and very much in education is a big thing. And I feel like that was part of what people were talking about is like, if we don't have that, if people aren't being educated about the Constitution, about how the government works, how on earth are they going to know exactly what we're saying, that it affects them on a daily basis. So to me, I'm grateful to have this platform, and I've been trying to post as much as possible. And Kacie, your Instagram, I want to make sure I know about that, because I really just in the ways in which we can all get to know each other, and the gift of social media is that we can share more. There is more communication between everyone, and it's not just them telling us what is going on and us just having to receive that. So I'm trying to feel empowered and hopeful but not complacent is what I've been saying. and grateful to just be here and listen to everyone's commentary. And I'm just really, grateful, and to also how arts can inform and how representation truly matters and how we can really write the stories we want to see in the world. And I just want to be an active participant in that. So yeah, happy to be here.
Well, thank you for being part of this, and love to your mom and dad. I mean, we go back a little while, but I missed them, and I was glad that they were able to, do that little bit. Even though I had auditioned to play Art Connie, and your dad got it, but he's much better than I am at it, so it's fine. What I was going to say, Joe, Wendie had come up with this idea of doing Langston Hughes and doing this poem, When the Cow, and that became a real special section for me in this, and knowing that it was written in 1935, kind of like really was wow. That's like it was written yesterday. It's very, very powerful. And I know we had been talking about it, Joe, a bunch as you were getting ready to do it. Any thoughts regarding that or anything else, Mr. Spano?
Yeah, I'm not much of a policy wonk, but I do love beauty. And when I read, and maybe reread, who knows, this Langston Hughes poem, there is a beauty and a truth and a love. And I am honored to be allowed to have read part of it. I am going to work on a show that is a white man's recitation of beautiful poems from the Harlem Renaissance poets. I hope everybody will say, yeah, go ahead, do that, Joe. But I got to tell you that back when I was in college in the 1960s, I had a acting class for the first time. They told me to come in with something. What I came in with was a poem by James Weldon Johnson. And I didn't know anything about cultural appropriation at that time, so I just came out and did it, and it was called The Creation. And I'd like to read you the first stanza of it. And God stepped out on space, and he looked around and said, I'm lonely. I'll make me a world. So the beauty of art in making us larger human beings is not to be forgotten in all of this. Thanks.
And the other piece of this is, Michael, you finishing it, and how powerful that was. And I mean, I adore your work, but that really just I've now seen it like 9 times within the last 24 hours, and I'm still blown by it. I'm still blown by that piece. And obviously you connect, but there's something that we all connect to when you say that, because I think we're all missing America. We're all wanting to find America. And so that's really important to me. So I just wanted to thank you for doing that, but also tell you how powerful that was. We got another one here. I'm curious if the Magna Carta is still referred to in British courts in 2020. I can't imagine the US Constitution serving forever. The United Nations Charter is more evergreen. That was another comment that came out of here. Tony.
Yeah, jumping off of from what everybody is saying, which is so beautiful and articulate, and thank you. There's such huge gratitude that I feel for this creative team, and that includes all of these beautiful performers and actors, and Cameron and Gary and Wendie and Jeff for shouldering most of this. Such a beautiful job. And I jumping off from what Melissa mentioned before, you know, education is such a scary word for some people. It makes people go, oh no, do I have to learn something? But to give it a human face, as we did today, as I saw all of you do today, is really what I think theater does best. Give every conflict and every thought and every feeling that we can experience as human beings, put it into a human context and give it a human face. And that to me is so cherishable. And I'm so profoundly grateful to everybody, this community, for making theater live in this way and learning so much that I didn't know before by seeing people speak it and feel it. So thank you. We've turned poison into medicine, I think, and thank you.
Yeah, this is someone's conversations are not just talking to each other. To keep these conversations alive and meaningful, we need to teach and learn the art of listening to each other. At the very least, someone said it is time for more amendments in the Constitution. And then someone also wrote, until the legislative body actually reflects the diversity and interest of the populations, I don't know that our interests will ever truly be represented. Anybody want to take any of those? I don't think we need a new constitution. Rather, we need to modernize our current one to reflect today's issues.
Well, I'll jump in with the dry response from the constitutional standpoint. There is, God, this is a whole new thing for me, being the one who knows this document. But the 9th Amendment gets ignored constantly, and the amendment is a very simple one that just says that the rights enumerated in the Constitution the founding fathers wrote, our rights are not limited to the ones they mention there, which means it really is the amendment that opens up this Constitution to encompassing all the things we're talking about today and all the hopes of this thing continuing to be a living document and continuing to function for us for as long as we need it to. You know, speaking to that Magna Carta question, speaking to all of this, it has the ingredients in it to make it embody everything we all want it to, you know, but it really, really is going to take a lot of work because it's you know, it's sometimes just an incredibly large ship to turn. So.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up for today. But I mean for today, because this kind of has gotten me thinking about other things to talk about in other conversations. And I thank you all for being part of this. And this has been a real love experience. Cameron, I adore you and the time you spent putting this together, and thank you for trusting us and you know, and doing this. Thanks again to Christopher and Nick and Garrett for the hard work that you did this. Thank you for all of you wonderful actors and everybody else that was a part of this. Noah benShea and James Naughton and who else there? Oh, Mitch Farrell, our councilman, and the 2 congressmen.
Jorge Garcia.
This has just been great. Wendie just clicked off, but thank you, Wendie. write you a note myself. Joe, I'll be over in the backyard in a few minutes. I see everything is looking in great over there. Melissa, I intend to keep on talking more. So thank you for entering into our lives here. Thank you all again. That's it. We are done for today. And we will be back next week. Actually, we are not going to be done next week. We're going to take off next week. I think there's a lot of stuff that's happening. In 2 weeks, and we'll let you know what's happening. Keep in touch. Stay safe, everybody. Vote. Go out there and vote. Thank you all.